What is going on, everybody? It is Luke Bella with the Sideline Scoop, and today I thought I'd do a fantasy football video. So in today's video, I'm basically going to break down 5 players who I'm targeting in drafts, and these guys range all the way from like the 4th round to a guy who you can basically pick in the last round of your draft. So let's get into it. Alright everybody, so let's get into this video. The first guy I want to talk about today is Calvin Ridley. If we take a look at Calvin Ridley, he's going to be coming into his 3rd year this season. And so if we take a look at his stats the past couple of years, in 2019 he had 63 receptions, 866 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he even missed 3 games last year. So I think if he would have played all those games, he would have broken the 1,000-yard mark for the first time in his young career. But now coming into year 3, I really think that this is going to be the year that he's going to break out. So if we take a look at some other receivers in the past, lots of them broke out in year 3. Last year, Chris Godwin overtook Mike Evans as the #1 wide receiver on that team in his 3rd year. And the past before that, we had DeAndre Hopkins broke out in year 3, T.Y. Hilton, Roddy White. Those were the years in their 3rd year where they just really took off and sort of had one of the probably one of the better years of their career. Because they're young. They have a couple of years of experience in the league, and then they just suddenly come in and break out, have a monster season. And I really think that's what Calvin Ridley is going to do in this upcoming year. So last year he finished as a 27th wide receiver overall in 2019. But here's a stat that I think is super important that you sort of need to have an eye on. Okay, so last year Mohamed Sanu was on this Falcons team until right before week 8, because they traded him to the New England Patriots last year right before week 8. So we take a look here at this split from RotoViz. In the split, which is basically after Mohamed Sanu left, so all those targets that Mohamed Sanu was taking were gone, Calvin Ridley averaged 17.78 points per game. And in that same stretch that he averaged those points per game, Julio Jones only averaged 14.4 points per game. So after Mohamed Sanu left and Calvin Ridley was playing, Calvin Ridley was putting up better numbers than Julio Jones. And so I really think that this year, this could be the year that Calvin Ridley surpasses Julio Jones. That might be a hot take. It might not happen this year. It'll definitely happen in the next few years, I really do believe. But I really think that Calvin Ridley could finish in the top 12 along with Julio Jones. Because this Falcon offense, they pass the ball like crazy, and I really think that there's enough to go around. In the past couple of years, Calvin Ridley has led the team, has led the wide receivers in touchdowns, even surpassing Julio Jones. And so right now, if we take a look at his ADP, currently being taken as a 16th wide receiver, 39th overall. And so I really think that he could finish in the top 12 this year, so you're getting value with him there. So maybe if you can get him in the 4th round, that's an insane value. But also maybe even late 3rd round, because he's 39th overall right now. So depending on how big your league is, you can sort of take him there. But I really, honestly, Calvin Ridley is probably my favorite guy to sort of target this year in drafts. And so, yeah, that's the first guy I want to talk about. The next guy we're going to be talking about is a running back. We're going to be talking about James Conner right here. If you take a look at James Conner last season, he struggled a lot last year, partly because he injured his shoulder and his knee last season. But he finished as a 35th running back last year. So really, nothing to really be excited about last season. If you take a look at his stats, he played in only 10 games, 116 attempts, 464 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And the biggest thing with James Conner is like last year, the Steelers are pretty bad. Ben Roethlisberger got injured at the beginning of the year. They brought in some other quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph, some other guys, and their offense just really struggled. But now Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, coming back. Of course, he's old, but I think he can still play. As we can see from Tom Brady, still, what is he, 43 now? So I really think that Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back and really reignite this offense to sort of what they were in 2018. And if we take a look back all the way to 2018, which feels like forever ago now, but in 2018, when Ben Roethlisberger was there, he put up, what, like 5,000 yards or something that year, Ben Roethlisberger, I think. I don't know, something like that. But take a look at James Conner's stats from that year when Ben Roethlisberger was there. 12 games, 215 attempts, and 12 touchdowns. I didn't put the yards on my sheet of paper there, but, you can see the yards now because I put it up there. So whatever they are, right there. He averaged, all right, so he was 7th in points per game in the 2018 season. So, of course, he still missed 4 games in 2018, but when he was playing, he ranked 7th in points per game. And I really think that that's a value that he could bring this year. And the fact that you take a look at his ADP right now, being taken as a 22nd running back overall, 54th overall, I really think that he has the upside to finish in like the top 10, top 15, because Mike Tomlin was talking about this offseason, how they want to utilize James Conner as the workhorse back. And I think the thing that sort of is holding, James Conner down right now is sort of the uncertainty of like whether, Ben Roethlisberger coming back, can he stay healthy? Will he be as good as he used to be? I think there's questions regarding that. But I really do think Ben Roethlisberger can have a great season this year. And alongside that, I really think James Conner is going to be utilized a lot. The only thing to worry about with him is his injury history, because last year, of course, he missed like 6 games. The year before that, he missed 4. So there is some worry about that, but I really do think that, I really think he's a solid value right now, especially being picked, 22nd overall running back, 54th overall, so like 4th or 5th round, depending on how big your league is. But I think he's a solid value and really could, have a great year as long as his Steelers offense does great, which I honestly, personally, I think they will. All right, so that's guy number 2, another running back. Okay, so number 3, third guy I'm gonna talk about today is Will Fuller. So of course, on this Texans offense, this season they traded, or I guess in the offseason, they traded DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals. Sort of thought it was a pretty bad trade, but they got David Johnson, and that was a little confusing to me, but they must have just really wanted to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Anyways. So now DeAndre Hopkins is gone, and DeAndre Hopkins was like a target hog. In 2019, he had 30% of the team's targets. 2018, 32% of the team's targets. So just looking at that overall, you'd have to think the number 1 guy on this offense is going to be targeted a whole lot. And Will Fuller is going to be that number 1 guy in this offense. And so last year, if you take a look at some of his stats, if you remove the 2 games where he didn't breach 20 snaps, he averaged 14.7 PPR points per game, which would have made him a top 24 wide receiver, and that was last season. And I think now coming in, being the number 1 guy on this offense, Deshaun Watson is, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, maybe top 5 quarterback in the league, and this offense is going to be passing like crazy. I've read a lot that their defense is pretty bad, and so they're probably going to be trailing a lot in games and having to pass the ball. And so the fact that Will Fuller is the number 1 guy in this offense, getting passed to from Deshaun Watson, I really think that this could be a year that Will Fuller really does do well, just because he's going to be targeted so much. I think there's no question that he will do well in this upcoming season. Take a look at his ADP, 34th wide receiver, 78th overall, so you can get him in like 7th round, 6th round, sort of depending. So I really think that he could be a great value this upcoming year. The only worry about him is his injury history, because in 2018, he only played in 7 games, 2019, only 11 games. So there is that worry about his injury history, so that's something to think about. But I really do think that he could have a great year this year. Also, Brandon Cooks too. He's gonna be the 2nd guy, I think, on that team. He has some injury worries as well, but I think both of those guys should do really well. Will Fuller will be the number 1 guy, but also, Brandon Cooks could be a guy you target a little later if you want him as well. So that's my 3rd guy, Will Fuller. And so now 4th guy, now we're going a little bit deeper into drafts, and this guy is a guy you can get as like a 44th. He's being taken as a 44th running back right now, 119th overall. So you can get him in like the, 11th, 12th round, which is a solid value. So this guy is Zack Moss. And of course, he's a rookie coming in this year, so we don't really know a whole lot about him. 3 years, he had 3 straight years rushing over 1,000 yards at the University of Utah. And while he was there, he averaged 6 yards per carry, 13.9 or 4 something yards per reception. So he put up some solid stats in college, and of course, that doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL. And another stat interesting to look at, according to PFF, he missed a tackle on he forced to miss tackle on 38% of rushes in 2019. In college, which was the most among running backs in a season since the 2014 season. So obviously he has some skill, he has some talent, and I think the thing to take a look at here is, of course, we have Devin Singletary is the number 1 guy on this offense. But last year, Frank Gore was there, and Devin Singletary wasn't really to capture that, number 1 running back workhorse role. And so I really don't think that Devin Singletary is that much better than Zack Moss. I personally think that there's a closer gap between them than most people think. Devin Singletary is being taken as a 23rd running back overall, Zack Moss being taken as a 44th running back overall. And so I really do think that they're going to utilize both of them. They talked about in the offseason how they sort of want Zack Moss to fill Frank Gore's role, so he'll probably be the guy to get lots of the goal line carries. And so I really think that Zack Moss is sort of a sleeper guy who really could do really well this upcoming season. But there's no certainty with that. That's why he's being taken so late in drafts. But I really do think he's a guy that you should target later in your drafts, a guy who has some upside. Maybe a guy who could come in later in the season and just really do well, because often there's those running backs you pick later in drafts, some rookies who just come out of nowhere at the end of the season. I think Zack Moss could be that guy. There's no certainty in it, but might as well take a risk, I guess, on a sleeper like that super late in drafts. All right, so that is the first 4 guys. And the last guy here I'm going to be talking about is Allen Lazard. For those of you who don't know, Allen Lazard, Packers wide receiver. He sort of came off, I think he was like he was on the Jaguars practice squad for a while in like 2018. And then last year he was on the Packers practice squad. Then he came and he started playing his first game in week 6 of last season. And last year, take a look at his stats, 35 receptions, 477 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And of course, those stats aren't super exciting, but I think one thing to look at is sort of the trust that he built with Aaron Rodgers. I'm a Packers fan, as most of you know. Lots of you guys follow me because I also talk about the Packers. But I really think that he's built up trust with Aaron Rodgers. And last year, when Aaron Rodgers was targeting Lazard on 3rd down, he was 11 for 16 with 140 yards and 1 touchdown. And Aaron Rodgers' QBR when targeting Lazard was 115.6. And so obviously, as you can see, whenever Aaron Rodgers last year did target Lazard, he did very well with those targets that came his way. And so I really think of this upcoming season, now Lazard has an entire year under his belt. He's gained the trust of Aaron Rodgers. There's not much certainty besides, of course, Devontae, of course, #1 wide receiver on the Packers. But besides that, Lazard is definitely the #2 guy, especially now that Devin Funchess opted out of the season. So there was some question like, will Devin Funchess replace Allen Lazard? Will Lazard be the third receiver? But now, of course, with Funchess gone, there's no question that Allen Lazard is a #2 wide receiver on this offense. And I really think that, of course, being on a Packers team with Aaron Rodgers, the #2 guy is going to be utilized and is going to do well in the season. And right now, another really interesting thing to take a look at. So if we take a look here at player profile, if you take a look at points per pass route, so every time he was targeted on his pass route, he averaged 0.47 points, which ranked 30th overall among wide receivers. Another similar one, fantasy points per target, 1.98, which ranked 26th overall. So, in a top 30 range when it comes to when he's targeted, how well he performs. And right now his ADP is 64th overall. And so I think the fear is maybe that some people have why he's being drafted so late is because, we don't really know how much he will be targeted, but I really do think the trust he's built up with Aaron Rodgers, sort of the way he's proven himself last season, sort of, doing well when he is targeted, I really think that this year will be a year he breaks out. I really do think it's a year where he will be targeted a lot more by Aaron Rodgers in this upcoming season. And he's a guy you can basically take in like the last round of your draft. So like if he does terrible, there's not really no problem, last pick of your draft. But I honestly think this is a year for Allen Lazard to really break out, really stand out. Year under his belt, year 2 is going to come in. I really think he's going to be utilized a lot on this Packers offense. So yeah, it's basically a guy that I really do like and that I've taken as well in fantasy drafts. But those are basically the 5 guys that I really like, guys, different areas of drafts you can really target in this upcoming season. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like it down below. Comment below some of your favorite picks too as well that you're targeting this year in fantasy drafts. And if you want to see some more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. But I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for staying around to watch this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.